Module 11, Family Structures and Legacies. Family structure. Traditional family is considered a family support system. It involves two married individuals providing care and stability for their biological offspring. Family, it is created at birth, establishes ties across generations or the extended family of aunts, uncles, grandparents, and cousins that can all hold significant emotional and economic roles for the nuclear family. Different kinds of family structures. First is the nuclear family. It is consisted of most of a father, mother, and dependent children. It is also considered the traditional family. Second is the extended family. It consists of parents and children, along with either grandparents, grandchildren, aunts or uncles, cousins, and etc. Third is step families. Two families brought together due to divorce, separation, and remarriage. Fourth is a single-parent family, wherein it can be either a father or a mother singly responsible for that raising of a child. Next is the adoptive family, which is one or more children has been adopted. Next is the biracial or multiracial family. It is where family's parents are members of different racial identity groups. Next is the transracial adoptive family, wherein adopted child is of a different racial identity group than of the parent. Blended family, on the other hand, consists of members from two or more previous families. The other hand, conditionally separated families is family that is separated from the rest of the family. It may be due to faraway employment, military service, or hospitalization. Next, we have the foster family. It is one or more of the children is legally a temporary member of the household. Next is the gay or lesbian family, which is one or both parents or sexual orientation is gay or lesbian. It may also be a two-parent family, an adoptive family, a single parent, or an extended family. Next, we have immigrant family. It is where parents have immigrated to another country as adults. And lastly is the migrant family. It is a family that moves regularly to places where they have employment. Storytime! What does it mean to put others first before ourselves? For our first story, a doctor entered the hospital in a hurry after being called in for an urgent surgery. He answered the call ASAP, changed his clothes, and went directly to the surgery block. He found the boy's father pacing in the hall waiting for the doctor. On seeing him, the dad yelled, "Why did it take all this time to come? Don't you know that my son's life is in danger? Don't you have any sense of responsibility?" The doctor smiled and said, "I'm sorry. I wasn't in the hospital and I came as fast as I could after receiving the call. And now, I wish you'd calm down so that I can do my work." "Calm down? What if your son was in this room right now? Would you calm down? If your own son dies now, what will you do?" said the father angrily. The doctor smiled again and replied, "Doctors cannot prolong lives. Go and intercede for your son. We will do our best by God's grace. Giving advices when we're not concerned is so easy," murmured the father. The surgery took some hours, after which the doctor went out happy. "Your son is saved," and without waiting for the father's reply, he carried on his way running. "If you have any questions, ask the nurse," Why is he so arrogant? He couldn't wait some minutes so that I can ask about my son's state, commented the father when seeing the nurse minutes after the doctor left. The nurse answered, tears coming down her face. His son died yesterday in a road accident. He was at the burial when we called him for your son's surgery. And now that he saved your son's life, he left running to finish his son's burial. Family Legacies. Heritage is one thing common to everyone. It is a social, emotional, and spiritual legacy passed on from parent to child. The emotional legacy. In order to prosper, our children need an enduring sense of security and stability nurtured in an environment of safety and love. The emotional legacy requires time and consistency to develop a sense of emotional wholeness, but the rewards are great. A strong emotional legacy provides a safe environment in which deep emotional roots can grow. It also fosters confidence through stability. It conveys a tone of trusting support. It nurtures a strong sense of positive identity. It creates a resting place for the soul. It demonstrates unconditional love. The social legacy. To really succeed in life, our children need to learn more than management techniques, counting, reading, writing, and geometry. They need to learn the fine art of relating to people. If they learn how to relate well to others, they'll have an edge in the game of life. In order to prosper, our children need to gain the insights and social skills necessary to cultivate healthy and stable relationships. As children mature, they must learn to relate to family members, teachers, peers, and friends. Eventually, they must learn to relate to co-workers and many other types of people such as salespeople, bankers, mechanics, and bosses. Nowhere can appropriate social interaction and relationships be demonstrated more effectively than in the home. At home, you learned and your children will learn lessons about respect, courtesy, love, and involvement. Where modeling as parents plays a key role in passing on a strong social legacy. Key building blocks of children's social legacy include: first, respect, beginning with themselves and working out to other people. Second, responsibility, fostered by respect for themselves that is cultivated by assigning children duties within the family, making them accountable for their actions, and giving them room to make wrong choices once in a while. Third is the unconditional love and acceptance by their parents, combined with conditional acceptance when the parents discipline for bad behavior or actions. Fourth, the setting of a social boundaries concerning how to relate to God, authority, peers, and the environment and the siblings. Fifth, rules that are given within a loving relationship. The spiritual legacy. The spiritual legacy is overlooked by many, but that's a mistake. As spiritual beings, we adopt attitudes and beliefs about spiritual matters from one source or another. As parents, we need to take the initiative and present our faith to our children. Storytime! And for our second story, it is entitled The Wooden Bowl. A frail old man went to live with his son, daughter-in-law, and 4-year-old grandson. The old man's hands trembled. His eyesight was blurred, and his step faltered. The family ate together at the table, but the elderly grandfather's shaky hands and failing sight made eating difficult. Peas rolled off his spoon on the floor. When he grasped the glass, milk spilled on the tablecloth. The son and daughter-in-law became irritated with the mess. "We must do something about father," said the son. "I've had enough of his spilled milk, noisy eating, and food on the floor." So the husband and wife set a small table in the corner, where grandfather ate alone while the rest of the family enjoyed dinner. Since grandfather had broken a dish or two, his food was served in a wooden bowl. When the family glanced in grandfather's direction, sometimes he had a tear in his eye as he sat alone. Still, the only words the couple had for him were sharp admonitions when he dropped a fork or spilled food. The 4-year-old watched it all in silence. One evening before supper, the father noticed his son playing with wood scraps on the floor. He asked the child sweetly, "What are you making?" Just as sweetly, the boy responded, "Oh, I am making a little bowl for you and Mama to eat your food in when I grow up." The 4-year-old smiled and went back to work. The words so struck the parents so that they were speechless. Then tears started to stream down their cheeks. Though no words were spoken, both knew what must be done. That evening, the husband took grandfather's hand and gently led him back to the family table. For the remainder of his days, he ate very small meal with the family. And for some reason, neither husband nor wife seemed to care any longer when a fork was dropped, milk spilled, or the tablecloth soiled. Family legacies. The legacy you want to give. We all have good and bad parts to the legacy we have inherited. The key is to move forward from here. For some, taking a closer look at the legacy they've been given helps them assess the legacy they want to pass on. After considering your past, here are some practical tips for the future. Decide what you'll keep. You probably have things you received that are wonderful and need to be kept and passed on. Other things may need to be thrown out, or perhaps you have a weak legacy that needs strengthening. Whatever you received, you can now intentionally pass along the good. This isn't always easy. If you saw hypocrisy in your parents' lives, you may be tempted to throw everything out, even though much of what your parents modeled was good. Don't. That would be like burning down the house to get rid of some bugs. Realize that there is a being who can redeem even the bad stuff in your legacy. Unfortunately, many of us have parts of our legacy that are weak or even awful. Maybe one of your parents was an alcoholic or abusive, or didn't provide the nurturing you needed. In today's society, the stories of such families are common. You may be asking, how do I give something I didn't receive? Nobody modeled this stuff for me. Hope is not lost. Consider the story of Josiah from the Old Testament in the Bible. His father and grandfather were involved in many wicked things, including idol worship that threatened the entire nation. But after 8-year-old Josiah became king of Judah, he reversed that trend. He sought God and purged Judah of idols, repaired the temple, and saved a nation. Like Josiah, you can choose which things in your legacy are no good and throw them away. It's important to break the cycle of hurt by leaving bad things behind and creating a new legacy. Legacies are not easily broken and always benefit from His guidance. Start a new course as you begin a positive legacy for yourself and those you love. Research suggests that most fathers will parent the way they were parented. That means only a minority of fathers will change their parenting style, even if their parenting is wrong. Today, you can take positive steps to design a new heritage for yourself and your family. Storytime! Last but not the least, the story entitled Give Time to Our Family. After 21 years of marriage, my wife wanted me to take another woman out to dinner and a movie. She said, "I love you, but I know this other woman loves you and would love to spend some." The other woman that my wife wanted me to visit was my mother, who has been a widow for 19 years. But the demands of my work and my 3 children had made it possible to visit her only occasionally. That night, I called to invite her to go out for dinner and the movie. "What's wrong? Are you all well?" she asked. My mother is the type of woman who suspects that a late-night call or a surprise invitation is a sign of bad news. "I thought that it would be pleasant to spend some time with you," I responded. "Just the 2 of us." She thought about it for a moment and then said, "I would like that very much." That Friday after work, as I drove over to pick her up, I was a bit nervous. When I arrived at her house, I noticed that she, too, seemed to be nervous about our date. She waited in the door with her coat on. She had curled her hair and was wearing the dress that she had worn to celebrate her last wedding anniversary. She smiled from a face that was as radiant as an angel's. I told my friend that I was going out with my son, and they were impressed, she said. As she got into the car, "They can't wait to hear about our meeting." We went to a restaurant that, although not elegant, was very nice and cozy. My mother took my arm as if she were the first lady. After we sat down, I had to read the menu. Her eyes could only read large print. Halfway through the entries, I lifted my eyes and saw Mom sitting there staring at me. A nostalgic smile was on her lips. "It was I who used to have to read the menu when you were small," she said. "Then it's the time you relax and let me return the favor," I responded. During the dinner, we had an agreeable conversation. Nothing extraordinary, but catching up on recent events of each other's life. We talked so much that we missed the movie. As we arrived at her house later, she said, "I'll go out with you again, but only if you let me invite you." I agreed. "How was your dinner date?" asked my mom, or rather my wife, when I got home. "Very nice. Much more so than I could have imagined," I answered. A few days later, my mother died of a massive heart attack. It happened so suddenly that I didn't have a chance to do anything for her. Sometime later, I received an envelope with a copy of a restaurant receipt for the same place Mother and I had done. And an attached note said,
"I paid this bill in advance. I wasn't sure that I could be there, but nevertheless, I paid for 2 plates, one for you and the other for your wife. You will never know what that night meant for me. I love you, son."